How's it? Welcome back to the channel. So let's talk about DMT and then kind of also like specifically referencing Joe Rogan's recent podcast he did with Rick Strassman, who's this guy that wrote the book DMT, the Spirit Molecule, and has been like a lifelong psychedelic user and researcher. So I've never done DMT myself, not for a lack of trying though. I had a couple friends over the years who could get it, but then every time I would like we try to hook up to schedule a time to do it, shit kept falling through. Um, Also, I've never read the book, the Spirit Molecule. So all my general knowledge based off of DMT in general is going to be coming largely from that recent podcast Joe did with Rick, and then all the other times that Joe has talked about it himself. I've also had a few discussions with my friends who could get it, about their experiences with it, but nonetheless, didn't talk too deeply about them with it. I was just like, man, well, let's fucking schedule it, and then it never came through. So when it comes to DMT, my general thoughts on it is it just seems so close to like dream like work that it seems right along that line to me. And a lot of times people will say that like DMT might be responsible for dreams. I guess I should say this also that DMT is also produced naturally in the body, right? I believe it comes from within your brain by the pineal gland. It's also produced in other parts of your body, like your liver and I think even your lungs. But like at least according to the podcast that was with Rick and Jill, he was saying that all the stuff coming from your body, by the time it would reach your brains, it'd be so diluted and in such a minuscule amounts that it probably wouldn't have, any effect. So if DMT is responsible for dreaming, then it probably is coming from DMT that's being produced within the brain. Also, if DMT is responsible for dreams, it's not clear, and I'm not sure if they want to say it's responsible for all dreams or if it's just responsible for the more powerful dream-like experiences that can be had. Um, yeah, so why do I think it's so much like dreaming? So I'll use Joe Rogan's example that he brings up all the time, talking about his experience with all the jokers and shit, right? So he has one where he was doing the DMT, shot off into Dreamland or DMT land or through his portal, however he wants to talk about it, right? And then he saw like all these jokers who were saying like fuck you, right? And then he interpreted that to mean he was taking himself too seriously and he had to like stop doing that shit. He also talks about another experience, which he was talking about in his recent podcast. He doesn't bring him up as much as like the fuck you story that he always talks about, but he had another DMT experience where the Jokers were there again, but this time they were saying like, I love you 754,6,000 times. I love you like 7,894,000,000,000,000,000 trillion times. And like, just kept adding on like fake numbers at the end of the I love you. A lot like how kids will do when they just want to really express their love for you and shit. So, also he said in that same experience that every time it would say like I love you and throw that random number out, like the scene that he was experiencing just kept like doubling and tripling and just eye melting beauty, and it was just so beyond anything that he thinks he could be naturally capable of, that it's got to be coming from some outside source, or potentially could be coming from some outside source. Of course, Joe like brings it up during it, like maybe it is all coming from within his brain, but it just seems and feels so much like an outside entity that he wants to believe that it could potentially be. So my general take on that is, man, that is just so much like dreaming. When it comes to dream interpretation, right? Dreams generally don't just come out and speak to you bluntly. They talk in like metaphors and symbolism, and you gotta decode that shit, right? So when he took like the Joker saying "fuck you," he internalized it, related it to him, and thought he was taking himself too seriously. Also, it's not surprising that he would see Jokers, right? Because he's a professional comedian, so that's probably a pretty strong archetype in his head. And then for the other one, we're just saying like I love you like 7 billion trillion times. He has kids, right? So I see like a lot of parallels there, like the kids saying that kind of stuff to him, so he has that experience. Now, it wasn't clear if he had that dream before, after he had kids. I'm just kind of assuming it was after the kids. And then when things start multiplying and tripling in like eye melting beauty, man, dreams are a billion%, a billion trillion infinity% capable of doing that as well. Plus within dreams, and this is like what causes a big like division in the dream community, is like, are you really interacting with some outside entity within your dreams? Because that can happen, it can seem like it feels like that a lot. And so it kind of gets split on the group that says, I really am interacting with God or some astral being that's all powerful and shit. Then there's the other side of the argument where, oh, it's probably just your brain is just really powerful and strong. Your subconscious mind is infinitely huger than like your conscious awareness, so that can serve up, a lot of power in it there. And as I've said before too, either one of those answers I find to be equally amazing. I tend to land a bit more on like the materialistic side, where I don't think I'm actually interacting with some entity outside myself. I just think it's my own brain serving me up some goodies. But yeah, so that's the first take on that. And then I got to read through my notes and see what I'm going to cover next.